Are you ready to turn your investments into retirement income? Listen in as Jeremy Keil and his guests reveal ways you can make smarter retirement, investment, and tax planning decisions to achieve your ideal retirement. You will learn more about your money so you can feel better about your money and make better money decisions. Now, on to the show.
Welcome to Retirement Revealed. I'm your host, Jeremy Keil, and I'm joined by my producer, Eric Johnson. Eric, how are you doing today?
I am doing very well. Thank you. I'm really excited to be a part of this part 2 podcast. And for those that are just joining us, wondering what was part 1, Jeremy, why don't you tell them what part 1 was all about?
Yeah, last week we had Marty Schreiber tell his story. Marty is a former governor in the state of Wisconsin, and he's more famous for, at this point, his journey taking care of his wife, Elaine, as she's gone through Alzheimer's herself. It's been an 18-plus year journey now that we're in 2021, an 18-year journey, and he's been taking care of his wife. He's been going through all kinds of ways to make sure she's being well taken care of, and he took that experience, turn it into a book. My Two Elaines is the name of the book. Go back to the last week's episode, listen to the first part, listen to his story, and also too, email us. We'd love to give away one of his books. We've set aside 3 of his books, got them right here next to me, and the first 3 people that go to retirement-revealed.com, send us an email through the contact page, or just email me directly, jeremy@keilfp.com. That's KEILFP.com. We'd love to get that book on out to you.
That's a fantastic offer. The story was amazing. And so now I'm really looking forward to, because this is kind of the question and answer time. And this was from a webinar that Thrivent sponsored, correct?
Yeah, they're a company called Thrivent. A lot of people in the Midwest, Wisconsin are familiar with, and I've got connections to them. And we were talking with them about doing an educational seminar, and they were gracious enough to sponsor that. They were the ones that put up the money for the different speaking fees for a few of the people that came on, and just so great that they wanted to bring this message to a lot of our clients. We had this first in May where it was exclusively for our clients, which is great that they got to be part of the Q&A. And once that was done, we asked Marty, such great information, do you mind if we share this later on with the podcast? And he said, yes, absolutely. He and another individual, Mary Ann Clairday, is someone that was on the podcast as well, too, on the webinar. She and Marty had met through the Alzheimer's Association, and she's now helping promote Marty's message along with him. And she's also worked through the Alzheimer's Association. She's given some great advice to caregivers that are out there. So this is the Q&A that you get to hear from the webinar, and you're going to love it. Great questions were asked, and Marty had the great answers too, because he's lived this for a lot of people that are now facing the situation. Everyone can send a question in, Q&A on there, so feel free to do that. We've got a couple coming in, but one thing that's important is just talking through that decision you made to have Elaine move into more residential care as opposed to you being able to take care of her 24/7 in your house. Can you talk about that decision to have her go to more professional care, I suppose?
Yes, having Elaine come into assisted living memory care was the toughest decision I think I've ever made in my whole life. It was just really simply heartbreaking. What led up to that decision, my children had sort of an intervention with me, and they sat down and they said, Dad, if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to be dead before Mom. Why do we want to lose 2 parents? That was part of the ingredient. I was going to counseling with the Alzheimer's Association, and Linda Market, my counselor, I'm visiting with her, and I told her I cannot see putting Elaine into a nursing home. And Linda said, you're not putting Elaine anyplace. You are giving her an opportunity to be who she is now. She asked, can Marty Schreiber's 24/7 nursing home care take care of Elaine? Well, the answer to that was not. I was sleeping near the doorway at night for fear Elaine would go out at night into the street. I mentioned the irrational irritability. I mentioned the impact on my health, all of those things coming into play. And when I came to the understanding that I was really harming Elaine more than helping her because I wasn't able to do the job, when I came to understand her life would be better Well, then I had, and I'll tell you, there's the emotional decision making, and then there's the intellectual decision making. Intellectually, I knew Elaine should be in assisted living. Emotionally, was horrible. And so I can remember it was the day after Labor Day. I had talked with the people over here at the Lutheran home in advance. They were just absolutely terrific in helping me understand that Elaine was going to not only be well cared for physically, but also emotionally and as well. So I can remember when we were leaving the home, and I was ahead of Elaine, and we live in a condo, and I'm walking ahead of her, and she left the door open. And I didn't have the courage, I didn't have the wherewithal to say, Elaine, close the door, because I knew that that was just really the end of those moments of her in our regular life. So anyway, so that was really tough, Jeremy. And I can remember that it was the day after Labor Day, but it was a beautiful day. And so when I left, I was walking into my car in the parking lot, and there was a couple there who were regulars in attending with Elaine daycare, memory care. And so as I walked out, one of the men who was in memory care, I would have to say probably 40 years old or so, maybe 45, maybe late 30s. But anyway, I was walking out, and, oh, Marty, he said, I love your shirt. Could I have that shirt? It's a beautiful blue shirt. Well, I happen to have another shirt in the car. I'm just feeling horrible. But anyway, so, all right, he said he loved my, so I said, well, come on over here. So I walked over to my car, and I took off my shirt, and then I put on another shirt. Now he said, don't I look really nice in this beautiful blue shirt? And I said, yes, you do. And so now people were giving me credit of being willing to give the shirt off my back. Well, I want to tell you the truth of the matter is I had just held up a Quick Trip store and wearing that dark blue, that blue shirt. And so the police were looking for a short, fat old man with a blue shirt. And now all of a sudden, this good looking tall man with a mustache was wearing this blue shirt. So they're still confused. And so anyway, I don't know if I should have brought it up. I don't want to, get myself in any trouble. But anyway, Jeremy, that every person should know that decision making of going into the home is the toughest. But there are really good people there, social workers and experienced people who can help with the transition. As difficult as it is, as difficult as it was, we know that it is the best.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Marty. I think a few people have already said, thank you for helping to change my perspective. I think right there, just talking through of a perspective you had prior to changing where Elaine was living, you were able to change that perspective with part of your family. And it's just so great that your family was involved. That's a big help that's on there. You mentioned the Lutheran home is where Elaine's at right now. I asked Heidi Mayer, who's part of the Lutheran home. She is actually on this webinar. I asked if she doesn't mind. Heidi, do you mind just sharing just a bit about Marty and Elaine's Hope? That's the name of the memory care unit there at the Lutheran home.
Hey, Marty. What can I say about my friend Marty? Marty and I have known each other for a long time when he was on our board and helped us be the best organization we can be. So it's just been an honor to have him involved on a day-to-day basis with us. He's a dear friend. We love Elaine. We're so grateful that we get to take care and be with them every day. It's one of those things that when the Lord brings you together, you're grateful for the opportunity, and he's been a blessing to all of us for so many years. Marty, thank you. Elaine's Hope would not be possible without Marty and his help and vision of that project. So.
Yeah, well, thank you, Heidi. But when you say those wonderful things, I'm grateful for that. But that reminds me, so this fellow, he passes away. The bereaved wife is at the visitation, and the bereaved wife is there, and people are coming up to her and saying just how wonderful the husband was, how gracious he was, and how kind he was, and so forth, and just going on how good he was. And finally, she taps one of her children on the shoulder. He says, "You just better go up and look in that coffin to make sure that that's your daddy." And so, but anyway, so So thank you for that. What goes on beyond that is the resident assistants that are here, the people that on a daily basis take care of Elaine and take care of others. I tell you, you cannot, they are just such outstanding people. How they are able to come into the assisted living, residential assisted living situation and leave all of their other concerns at the door and come in and do nothing but dedicate their time to helping the residents here live their best life possible. And gosh, my heart goes out to them, and they're just grand, wonderful people. And so it's something really to be acknowledged and thankful for. But then Heidi, you're the one who always has been gracious and kind and caring. And so I thank you for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. It's been a privilege, and I agree with you 100% about our resident assistants. They are our brand. They are our secret, and they are our greatest blessings. So, as are you.
So Heidi, I see your picture there, but they tried to do that with goldfish once upon a time. But anyway, it's good to see your
that's
picture.
Awesome. Thanks, Heidi, for coming on and just sharing a little bit about that. So Elaine's Hope is the memory care unit that's at the Lutheran home. And Marty was a key fundraiser, key donor to having that memory created. And I don't know if I mentioned it to you, Marty, but certainly we've are so happy that you came on, and that everyone, please email in or write in the chat that you want to have a copy of the book. We'll have them at our office in New Berlin, but I see some people that are even in Connecticut that are out of the state. Happy to mail this out to anyone. What's neat about this book here is a few things that say what I wish I had known, what I wish I had done. I imagine that that's a lot of great resources for people that are in that situation or getting close to that situation. So want to get that book out to everybody. But beyond that, what I don't know if I mentioned yet to you, Marty, is that we're so grateful that you're a part of this. We're going to be donating some money to Elaine's Hope. And for anyone, a few people have asked how they can be helpful in any way. I put in the chat a link to where you could donate to Elaine's Hope as well too. Also a link to where you can learn more about Elaine's Hope. There's some people on here that have mentioned that they're going through the early stages of Alzheimer's, and maybe Elaine's Hope is where they could get some help from memory care. And a lot of people are interested in the Alzheimer's Association. There's a local event coming up in just a couple weeks. So I put the link to that local event. It's in Muskego, so just not too far away from Milwaukee. So I've got that link in there if you wanted to participate or donate. Just so many ways that you can get involved. I know, especially too, you've been big proponent of the Alzheimer's Association and their helpline. They've got a helpline. If you've got just anything that you need help with related to Alzheimer's, they've got an 800 number on there. I just put that in the notes, and the alz.org, the website for Alzheimer's Association, that's in as well too. But so many people, Marty, are saying thank you. And one person just said they've gone from tears to laughing. So, and that's a common theme I hear from people that are hearing your talk, is that it's just so emotional, various emotions on there. One question. Yeah.
Just a few things, if I might. In the back of the book, there's a listing of resources. And among them, again, is that 800 number, Jeremy. That's a 24/7 line. And unfortunately, it's answered electronically, but there are people on duty 24/7 to answer whatever question you might have. And what a godsend, because sometimes we caregivers are existing moments where we just don't know what to do. And sometimes knowing that there is that 24/7 hotline makes all the difference in the world. And then also I want to mention that we have a website, my2elaines.com. And people can find out more about that. But also we put out a monthly newsletter, and anyone who wishes to subscribe to that newsletter. What I'm going to be talking about in the June newsletter is the fact that in Elkhorn, they have a very strong dementia-friendly effort there, and trying to make sure people understand some of the really important things to do to be dementia-friendly. And one of them, among all of those things in a general category, is join the world of the person who now is. But we'll be talking about, and then we also talk about more, I'm trying to think of exactly how that goes, but I guess they say more troubles and tribulations are born out of lack of sleep than almost any other cause. And so we've got to be mindful of that.
Marty, I've got a question here, but before I get to this question from Walter, one thing, especially with joining their world of the individual who has Alzheimer's, is I've seen quite often a few news reports, some videos of you singing to Elaine. Can you just talk about how music just gets people connected and maybe brings them back and puts a smile on their face?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't think I'm quite ready to go national. And I know that there's probably nobody asking for it, but as long as they did bring it up. So I'm not quite ready. But I told you, when we were talking about how Elaine liked me more than her husband, and how it was not necessary for her to know who I was for our hearts to touch. And so if we join the world of this person who now is, we look for ways where we can make the connect. And certainly holding hands, certainly talking, but also singing. And it's amazing whether it's I Am Jesus' Little Lamb, or There Are Smiles That Make Us Happy, or You Are My Sunshine, how just those familiar words and melodies and so forth can give our loved one an additional kind of comfort. And music ends up being so important. We've got Alexa, and I don't want to turn it on now, but just Alexa and different. The University of Wisconsin Marching Band, Elaine will actually try and direct it periodically, and then Patsy Cline, who's been around for a long time. So please, everyone, understand the importance of music, the importance of looking for different ways that we can have our loved one live their best life possible.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, great advice on the music piece of it. It's just amazing how music gets hardwired into your brain in such a way that it's still, people are still able to hold on to that for quite some time, and even bring them back, bring them happy memories. Yeah. One question we had here from Walter is, do most people realize, for as long as Elaine apparently did, that they themselves have Alzheimer's?
Say that again. I missed that.
So you had shared some notes from Elaine where she was talking about how she knew she had Alzheimer's, and
Yes.
It seemed like she maybe knew that diagnosis for quite some time. Is that somewhat typical, would you say?
Well, first of all, it is not typical for someone to have this journey for 18 years. Yeah. The journey may be from 5 to 7 years. And so within that framework, then a lot of this is either compressed or expanded as far as the transition that our loved one goes through once diagnosed with early onset. And so it's different. They said, you show me one situation of Alzheimer's and I'll show you just one situation of Alzheimer's. So it moves at different speeds for different people. And what happened was, when Elaine was first diagnosed, there was the mini quiz, and that mini quiz basically is still used today. And who is president of the United States of America? What day is your birthday? Just really simple kinds of questions. And so 30, I think, was if you're above 30, you're all right. If you're below 30, well, there's more of a challenge. And so Elaine was at 27. And so she was 3 points below what would be considered normal. And what happens then is that as the disease progresses, that score goes down, because you begin to forget more and more. And so it does not go down arithmetically from 27, 26, 25, 24, 23. It may stay at 27 for a bit, and then may actually drop down to a 22, say, for example, and then stay at that level, for instance, and then maybe down to a 21 and so forth. So the point is that each individual situation is an each individual situation. And there are some. Well, there's we have a little bit of time. There's Jeremy. There are two pivots that come into play. The one pivot, and none of these take place like a snap of a finger. they take place over time, a very slow turning around. The one pivot is where the caregiver begins to understand the importance of letting go of that person who once was to embrace this person who now is. And once you get to that point, that pivot, life is better and easier for both you and your loved one. The other pivot is for the person who is ill. Again, as I read in Elaine's notes, Elaine was in the process of denying she had it, then admitting she had it. And then as the disease progressed, finally, she's in her own world. And so, again, it's all different for different people, but it is a matter in which they are struggling to try and maintain some type of a lifeline and some type of comfort. And if we don't understand this disease and we argue with them about different things and don't join their world as soon as we should, God, how much more difficult does that make for our loved one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Somebody mentioned a movie called The Father. I haven't seen that, but she said it's a great movie for caregivers. It just came out, and it just talks through the experience that caregivers have with the Alzheimer's diagnosis and working with their loved ones that have Alzheimer's on there. We'll finish maybe with one last question. Seems like a tough situation this person's in. Hopefully you've got a bit of advice, but he asks, every time I visit my mother in assisted living, she says, it is your responsibility to get me out of here. So asking for some advice if you can.
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, the 800 hotline is one of them. Certainly talking with the social worker where at the assisted living facility, and we might explore how to be a detective, but also how to practice redirection. And if your mom would say it's your responsibility to get me out of here, well, again, we want to try and join her world. And we could say, yes, Mom, I understand. I agree, and let me work on that. And, let's in the meantime talk about all of the things that you like. Let's get involved in looking at some pictures so we can understand how you feel about certain things. So it is a matter of redirection. It is a matter of not taking head off. No way you're going to get out of here. That's certainly not the answer. But it could be, yes, I can understand how you feel. So validate those feelings. And then after the validation, somehow or another through redirection. There's other kinds of answers. Mary Ann, you are on the screen. But this is Mary Ann Clairday. Mary Ann was a former development director for the Alzheimer's Association, and now is working with me with My Two Elaines, just trying to make sure that we can do everything we can to help caregivers learn, cope, and survive. So, Mary Ann, do you have any thoughts on that question?
I think entering the reality is a great one. And also, I was just looking up some other possible situations, but being consistent, and sometimes you just have to state clearly, Mom, you're in a wheelchair, or Mom, you're not able to walk. And so it's a challenge, but we're going to do everything we can to get you as healthy as possible so you can be independent. Don't argue, don't get emotional, and acknowledge her feelings. Yeah, like Marty said, what do you like most about home, and what do you look forward to? But don't think that the desire will ever leave her mind, because she will probably always want you to get her out of there. And so Marty's comment about redirection and changing the subject in a way, if you can not, therapeutic fibbing is a wonderful way to utilize that Marty has talked about. And so again, try what you can do, call on help, blame the doctors. Doctors say you need to be here, Mom. My hands are tied. That might be another way to communicate that. So you take the burden and the blame off yourself. But that's what I would do.
Good. Just mention one or two more things about Mary Ann. She was a caregiver for her mom for 11 years, and also a caregiver now for her brother. So she is just an unbelievable assistance in helping me answer and deal with some of these questions. And one thing, in just a quick sort of takeaway, stay out of the line of fire. And so it's not you that's having your mother in the home, it's the doctor. If the car to be taken away, it's the mechanic who says the car is not going to work. It's the tires that got busted. It's the Department of Motor Vehicles who suspended the license for a bit of time, and so forth and so forth. Now, you as a caregiver are never going to do anything negative. It's always somebody else. You can always blame it on Jeremy.
Thank you, Mary Ann, for coming on and sharing your words of wisdom there too. Marty, any final words of wisdom from yourself, and then I'll wrap it up.
Well, just to know that I'm grateful to you, Jeremy, for the opportunity, and to thank you and Thrivent for what you do. And just to reinforce that if Alzheimer's is bad, ignorance of the disease is worse. And this is a mission for me. And so if anyone has any thoughts on opportunities where we can visit and talk and be with people, I would very much like to do that. But thanks, Jeremy, very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And to get connected to Marty, go to my2elaines.com. That therapeutic fibbing that Mary Ann referenced, I believe is a chapter even in this book, just talking how that is a helpful thing. Someone just wrote in, final comment is that you are a blessing. And I absolutely agree. Both of you are blessings. And thanks for coming on out. Appreciate your time. Appreciate all that you do, Marty, on behalf of caregivers and people with Alzheimer's. And I'd say especially thank you for taking great care of Elaine. I'm sure it's so incredibly appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay, so we just got to finish up listening to Marty give some great answers and great messages to people, especially that are caregivers themselves, that are facing the situation where they've got a loved one that is beginning or in the depths of their Alzheimer's journey. What do you think, Eric? What stood out to you there?
That guy, he's amazing. I loved the first podcast. I loved listening to, the story, which was just heart-wrenching and touching in so many different ways. But he brought a lot of humor to it. But I think that stuck with me is the therapeutic fibbing, which is genius.
Yes.
We spoke earlier, off air, that I've got family members that have gone through this. And my Uncle Bob, if he had just known about therapeutic fibbing, my Aunt Donna wouldn't have just drove him bananas, right? Because she was angry a lot of the time. And unfortunately, she was angry at him a lot of the time. So that would have really helped.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big thing that Marty talks about throughout his whole story, is that you need to join their world. Their view of the world is completely different from your own view. And it's getting you nowhere to say that, Mom, it's not Tuesday. Dad, your cousin died 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There's no advantage that you're going to bring to the individual, to the patient, by creating a conflict. If they think it's Tuesday, guess what day it is? If they think their cousin's playing the baseball game tomorrow, go cheer them on. There's just a way to go to decrease the stress. And it's just funny that that's a great term, the therapeutic fibbing. Probably something you should not practice on your spouse at this point in life.
Well, there goes my afternoon. All right. Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Well, good. Well, hope everyone enjoyed that Q&A with Marty. Want to remind you that we've got his book to give away. Please send me an email, Jeremy@KeilFP, KEILFP.com, or go to our podcast website, retirement-revealed.com, and you can contact us through there. Love to get that book on out to you. Just want to thank everyone for coming on out. Thank Marty and Mary Ann Clairday for sharing their time with us. And thank you for listening to the Retirement Revealed podcast. We believe if you know more about your money, you will feel better about your money, and you'll make better money decisions.
Thank you for listening to the Retirement Revealed podcast. Click on the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit retirement-revealed.com to learn more. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Keil Financial Partners. Keil Financial Partners does not provide legal, accounting, or tax advice. Consult your attorney or tax professional. Representatives have general knowledge of the Social Security tenets. For complete details on your situation, contact the Social Security Administration. Keil Financial Partners is a part of the Thrivent Advisor Network, a registered investment advisor. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.